Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I want to say I'm super honored to be selected to share this with you and for your time and interest in wanting to hear about this. My name's Linda Pallien, and I'm the author of Outrageous MindFxcks. I will introduce myself in due course, and over the course of the time that we spend together, I'll be telling you about the inspiration behind the book, how it got to being, why it's important for me, and why I thought it necessary to write, and why now. And then some of the issues that the book addresses now in this era for a young woman, what I call the raw, unfiltered musings of a reasonably grounded 30-something drifter. So without further ado, I will get started. And if you have any questions, please do let me know, and I'll be happy to respond to them as we go. So let's do this. One sec whilst I get the slides prepared. So this session is titled Outrageous Mindfucks and based on the book, which is an inspirational memoir, Outrageous Mindfucks. And it was shortlisted by Penguin Random House UK in the Right Now 2020. So who I am, my name's Linda Pallien. I'm an entrepreneur, author, and speaker. In my line of work specializes in career and business mindset. I run the Career 101 radio show in London, and I'm the founder of the Alpha Woman Club in Cyprus. I also do career and business advice worldwide, so I travel around and speak on the subject, and I'm super passionate about it. The book, to pre-order the book, you can find the link on lindapallien.com, lindapallien.com, and there's a link there that says pre-order the MindFxcks book. And all you need to do is put your name and email address, no payment necessary at this point in time. Right. Okay, so the inspiration for this book, and actually this is a book that really scares the bejesus out of me, right? Because it's a book that is very exposing, as you'll see. And I really wanted to clarify what mindfucks means when I talk about mindfucks in the context of this book. It's pretty much everything else, almost the opposite of mindset, but everything else that doesn't make sense or that can destabilize our mental condition. And for me, it's the sort of unanswered questions or the question marks and questioning what I believe and some of the beliefs that I embody. So that's what MindFxcks is, right? And I really wanted to write this book because in my line of work that I've been in for the last decade, I've earned the name MyCheerLinda because I'm a cheerleader for people. I really help people to meet their personal and professional goals. And if you've ever coached with me, I push until you reach the goals that you've set for yourself because I want to see my clients succeed. So I'm also called MyCheerLinda, which is my business name. The other side of being called my cheerleader is the unrealistic expectation to be happy all the time, that, you know, everything goes right for you, you have all the answers, nothing goes wrong, you know, and it's this unrealistic expectation that people put on you, or maybe that I feel for myself, you know, the pressure that I put on myself, because sometimes it's not necessarily what people think of you, but how you perceive what people think of you, and then that affects you, if that makes any sense. So there was more and more this unrealistic expectation to be a happy-go-lucky person, and I really wanted to lift the lid on and show the back office, if you will, on what goes on behind the scenes, and just the normal workings of a normal human being that is working their way through life just like everybody else. Okay, so that was the expectation. Also addressing taboo subjects, because one thing I know for sure is that the things we avoid talking about always stick with us, and sometimes we don't even know that it's a problem until we're confronted with a certain situation. So again, I really wanted to address some taboo subjects based on my upbringing, and also in the Western world as we live today. And then also normalizing not having all the answers, you know, making it okay to just be like, I have no fucking idea. And oh, by the way, as as is suggested by the title of this book, there's a bit of foul language, if you will, and that in itself, foul language, what makes a word foul and one word not foul. But I will be using that just as a precaution. So normalizing not having all the answers and going, it's okay, you know, these are things that I struggle with, or at some point I believe this, and at another juncture I believe that, and that's okay, right? And then the one thing that really drove my career, because I started my career helping people in the professional realm, so I was career coaching. But one thing I realized is that you can't separate your personal life from your professional life. It's just an unrealistic expectation, you know. So whilst I was helping people with their CVs or their resume, or doing their LinkedIn bio or their executive summary or their promotions, I felt more and more that we had to encroach on their personal lives to see what's going on around them and in them, because I think that we're in this sort of matrix together, you know, and the idea that we can sort of separate those personalities just causes conflict. So I really wanted to address that. And that, in a nutshell, was the inspiration for the book. Now, some of the challenges and objections that were faced was, who are you? How dare you write your story? And what shows anybody will be interested in this to begin with? And then also, for a 30-something-year-old, because I would never tell you my age, for a 30-something-year-old, are you too young to be writing a memoir? You perhaps haven't lived long enough, or you don't. What could you possibly have to say? So again, I wanted to shatter that actually, if you have something to say, it doesn't matter what the norm is, go ahead and do it. And I'm sure I'm not the first person to do it, but I don't know of anyone else that has. So that, again, was a motivator for me. Again, another thing that I struggle with is the exposing nature of this, because as I said, it lifts the lid on what goes on in the back office. And, you know, in a profession, or in the times when we have to keep up appearances, it's perhaps to expose them, whether for me, for my family, and friends, and just an insight into the way I think, the effect of that on my career. And that is a real concern. But I don't think it's important enough to keep quiet on some of the subject matters mentioned in this book. And then also how to make it interesting and relatable, because I do realize that everyone has a unique experience. And of course, from my upbringing, growing up in Ghana, West Africa, living in many countries across Europe and the world, I lived in China at one point, how relatable is it for the reader? So I try to make this as open as well, sharing my story, but also relating it to what the reader might have experienced in daily life. And of course, the final point was manifesting publishing of this book. Okay, you'll find out when we talk about spirituality that I have my own weird concocted version of spirituality. And it occurred to me that this was something I had to do, and I was given specific instructions of how to do that as well. So again, that then incites fear of, is this all in my head, or is this going to happen the way I want it to happen, or the way I intended to happen? So that again was a very interesting juncture or challenge for the book. Now, I will share with you the preface for the book, and allow me, I've got a few notes here so I don't miss any of the juicy details. So I'm going to read to you a little bit the preface of the book so you get the idea of the book. And then we're going to go on in discussing some of the elements mentioned in the book, just to give you a preview of what the book is about and why it's important, why it's exciting. So here we go. Outrageous Mindfucks, the raw and unfiltered musings of a reasonably grounded 30-something drifter. This book contains the standard mindfucks of the average person that comes up against quarter life or middle life or even longer, or sometimes never, according to all the liars. In any case, I wish you never read this book. Well, Mom and Dad definitely don't read this book. Please, for the sake of our loving and existing relationship. But everyone else, read if you really must. Through the paradoxical reality that is my life up to date, in this book I express my views on our beloved societal constructs in a half memoir, half observational comedic perspective. It's riddled with controversy and done in a potentially outspoken, outlandish, and downright outrageous manner. But I find it an important piece of work, if only to provide a glimpse into the inner workings of a fairly normal and apparently well put together functional member of society, especially for a young Black African British woman. Now, have you ever stared at someone and wondered what the hell is going on in that brain of theirs? What they do in secret? What happens when the cameras are off, alone behind closed doors? Well, this is it. And it isn't pretty, I warn you. But who gives a flying fuck anyway? Isn't that the whole point of it? I'm thinking it. Well, you're thinking it. Everyone's thinking it. That's a silent chatter between us that blows up the noisometer. And I, for one, I'm not taking this shit to the grave. I could do the normal thing and talk to a therapist, but how boring and how costly. But instead, I'll spill my guts in a book and offload this crap to some unsuspecting reader with an insatiable quest to see how fucked up humans can really get. I love that shit. It's what draws me to human psychology, and it always has. Most people know me as Linda Pallien, world-class coach, career strategist, international best-selling author, and award-winning entrepreneur. And you may have heard me speak around stages around the world, or listen to my London talk show. And if you have, it's lovely to meet you. Yes, that was me. And this is also me. It's all me. And that's just the point. Given the dynamic, multifaceted nature of human beings, it's imperative that we embrace and showcase as many facets unapologetically as possible, naturally and beautifully so. Admittedly, the biggest risk taken here is shattering pre-existing perceptions of who I am, or the risk of harsh judgment for some of the otherwise private content that would be shared in this book. But it's a risk I'm willing to take. In this book, I'll share what I've learned on the road to self-discovery, some of my subconscious conditioning, where it stemmed from, as well as how it shows up for me in my daily life. Okay, as a student As a successful student and leader of the personal and professional development, which coexist in the symbiotic relationship with the everyday design aspects of the wheel of life, of my life. On the road to finding fulfillment in my career and life, I explore my scuffles with consciousness, mental health, questionable spirituality, as well as somewhat peculiar escapades with sex and money, particularly for a millionaire's wife. I reveal circumstances surrounding suicide attempts, porn addiction, a foul-mouthed deity, and a rather bizarre wedding for one. In this facet, as a unfiltered 30-something drifter, I unreservedly put my 2 cents worth in popular trends and share aspects that I've come to embrace and where the logic falls apart for me. I don't purport to have all the answers, far from that, but I'm merely voicing out what everyone else is thinking, or at least what I think everyone else is thinking. Like T.I. says in his song, "My life, your entertainment, enjoy." For a bit of background, the book started out as a self-help directory, as a means to show people how to fight against the demons within, because I felt like I was the expert. But you'll come to find out that was a load of gallant rubbish and pomposity, which I have no idea of. And I'm ashamed of how much ego a super humble person like me has. And I guess the joke is on me, because the gods of the creative heavens opened the floodgates of my twisted psyche, and it would bring up a whole lot of fucked up shit I buried deep in my subconscious mind, far away from my external persona. I've then plastered a huge nothing to see here smile and called it part of life. We all do it. The stuff everyone thinks but no one acts upon because we live in a civilized society and you daren't step out of line. Well, ironically, we laugh at the Mrs. Bouquets of our society while refuting the gruesome reality that we are here in more aspects than we'd love to admit, our masks and our multiple personalities. So it's my sincere hope that in a decade from now, I'll look back on this book and say, what the fuck was I thinking? And no, I beg your pardon. What in the world was I thinking? Because of course, then in a decade, I'd be a super polished, refined woman, and I would not feel the need to swear in every other sentence. I'd finally make my parents proud by putting to good use everything I learned from finishing school, and I'd be a woman of substance. Well, a girl can dream. Nope. Better yet, a lady can dream. In short, if you take nothing out of this book other than the satisfaction that you can relax, because other people, no matter how they appear, are potentially more fucked up than you, and that you embrace who you are, all of who you are, the good and the bad, the slightly less fucked up genius and beautiful creation that you innately are. So that is MindFxcks. Now let's talk, I'm going to talk about this from the perspective of a career and business strategist. And I'm going to talk about the issues here in relation to that, because I think that that is the best way to approach it. So how does career and business relate to our personal lives? As I said to you, we're a multidimensional human being. So we can't, I don't think it's fair on us to separate these two dimensions, because it just leads for the fakery that and the keeping up appearances that we have to do, or we have to live up to. It leads to a lot of unhappiness. It leads to this wanting to be someone we're not, and it just leads to this questioning of identity, right? And I think if you think about it in terms of a diamond, because we love diamonds, right, as women, as women, but if you only look through one side of a diamond, you know, just like one cut of it, the light only shines through and you just see a ray of light. But if you turn the diamond and look at the multifacets, the light hits all of it and you can see it in its glory, right? All of it. And that's what creates that sparkle that we love so much. So that's how I see us, right? In the sort of genius way. If you've seen my TEDx talk where I talk about unicorns in straitjackets, I believe that everyone is a unicorn. We're magical, we're unique, we're magnificent, right? And we have this inner gift that if we can only harness, we can use that in our personal and professional life and gain a superior advantage because it's unique to us. And it's our job in life to uncover that. So I think then that seeps through into who we feel that we are, who we show up as, the careers we choose, the businesses we decide to go into, the people we work into, how we relate to ourselves and with other people. So who am I and what's my purpose? Okay, once we identify who I am, what's my purpose, we're then going to apply that into our career, right? What do I want to do? What do I love to do? And what difference can I make? What can I do to earn a living? Or where can I apply myself and my skills for the best possible returns, which is money, of course. So like how high can you climb, or how successful can you make your business if you're an entrepreneur? Okay. And then another aspect is your relationship with money, of course, because growing up, in my upbringing, I was taught money doesn't grow on trees. You know, you work hard for your money, and of course, that affected my my beliefs on money and how I operate, or how much I thought I deserved. And this is where the mindset and the MindFxcks comes in. When do you start making the balance of, actually, if I feel like money is hard to come by, of course it's going to be hard to come by. So I have to change that narrative for myself, which is what I did. Okay. Commitment. Working with people. I've seen a lot of people who habitually career change or change jobs often and hop and hop and hop, a year, a few months, however often. And then I ask, oh, how is your love life? And then you find that they don't have a stable girlfriend or partner as well. And I'm not saying one is as a result of another, you know, or they're always correlated, but patterns repeat themselves because remember, you're the same person. So then we need to figure out, what about commitment are we running away from, or am I running away from? Um, and I will tell you, in my experience in the book, I share with you how I've been a commitment phobe for the longest time. So much so that I wouldn't even get a 12-month contract, even though I am most likely to keep my phone contract. But for some reason, just the fact that I'm stuck with the company for 12 months, 24 months, 48 months, even 70. I don't know how people do it, but it it freaks me out, and I don't want to do it. Recently, I've learned better, and the maximum I've done now is a 12-month contract. But girl, I'm telling you that it wasn't easy. So commitment wise, when we're talking about that, do you stay with the same employer? Do you change jobs? Do you stay with the same business idea? Do you see your ideas through? That seeps into our personal lives as well. And what do I believe about the universe around me? Do I believe that everyone's evil? Do I believe that people are loving everybody? The universe is conspiring for my good, right? And whatever you believe works for you. I've learned that, right? So I really wanted to explain all of this from the perspective and the lens of a 30-something-year-old woman, and also from the professional perspective of being a mindset advisor, a mindset and career advisor, you know, just to bring that work, because work life is so important. And as adult, it forms the majority of what we do and we spend that time on. So I think that it bears mentioning and treating right, but not forgetting the personal aspect of it. Okay. And then, of course, is there a God? Is there life after death? If you believe in longevity, you're more likely to want to leave a legacy, right? If you think that there's something worth leaving, or if life is long, it's your personal philosophy. But if you are sort of YOLO, you only live once, I want to enjoy my experience here on earth, which I do personally, then legacies or long-term thinking is a balancing act as well. So it's again another aspect that we need to focus on and sort of draw parallels, or figure out what serves us and what doesn't, because the beauty of this is that you can pick and choose what serves you and what doesn't, and fucking take it or leave it. And also guilt and the use of creativity. If you believe that everything is energy. I spoke to someone recently and we were talking about life force energy and how sexual energy is creative energy. So then you remember what I said, what you resist persists. If you're resisting the sexual energy because you've been taught that it's so bad for you and there's so much shame and guilt surrounding that, then could you ever be really creative? Could you really express all of the facets of you because you're feeling like you're doing something wrong, or you're being bad, or there's some guilt linked to sex? Also money, right? If you believe that having money is greedy and evil, then you're going to feel some type of way about it, right? And then it doesn't help you to make more money. And maybe you don't need to make more money. Nobody does, really. I mean, we come as we are, we come naked and we're going to go naked. Nobody needs to make money to make a lot of money. But why be afraid of it as well? That's the question. That's the real question. Why be afraid of it? Okay. So we're going to move on to this. Right. So mindset and identity, this is one of the topics that we cover in the book. You know, a mindset is the beliefs that we embody, which informs our actions and attitudes. Okay, so it's everything that you believe, whether consciously, unconsciously. And actually, a lot of what we believe is unconscious. You wouldn't believe. You wouldn't believe. So, how does that inform our actions? So, seeing as this is a memoir, I'll share with you a bit about my story. So, growing up, I struggled with the name Linda. I have 7 names, 7 Ghanaian names: Linda, Mamiya, Abena, Ofebia, and Shira Boache, which Pallien now, which is rich in culture and just very filled with history. So having the name Linda plonked right in the middle of it, what the fuck? And also, I just felt like it was such an old person's name, like Linda, really? So it was a name I didn't get on with for the longest time. But as time went on, I learned to love the name, as you will read in the book. Nationality, I talk about what makes our identity, right? Is it my name? Is it my nationality? Is it the values that I embody? What's the definition of self, right? Is it who I'm told I am or who I create I am? Is it nature or nurture? You know, is it what I'm born with or what I decide to who I decide to be. In terms of nationality, I'm currently British Ghanaian, okay? But there's some instances where I'm Ghanaian British, and I share that in the book because sometimes British Ghanaian doesn't work for me, and it helps to say I'm Ghanaian first and then British. But isn't it twisted that now history has made it that the slave and the captor can be in one person? Because the history is that the British enslaved the Ghanaians when the slave trade was going on. So in itself, to be both, I can just imagine what my ancestors are thinking. Like, what the hell for that to happen? But by far, I'm not the only one, but that in itself is a conflict in identity. And I share sometimes in the book when it's advantageous to be British Ghanaian and when it's advantageous to be Ghanaian British in that. Okay, your values and your personality make you who you are. In my work as a career coach, teaching about personal and professional development, I teach people how to build their brand, their personal brand and their professional brand. So people get to see who they are, they can marry the two, and they don't have to be an inauthentic person at any juncture, whether it's in their personal life or their professional life. So then there's that. Then there's, I talk about other aspects of identity that almost fuck you up. So in the last couple of years, I've gone from an afro to straight hair. I've got locks on now, but just the effect the different hairstyles had on me and my self-confidence. I loved having my afro hair and I was very proud of it, but I love it until I have to fucking wear a suit. And then I feel like I don't look tidy enough, I won't be taken seriously. And that feeling, I'm not talking about what anyone else thinks because I can only control what I can control. But it's how I personally feel about it. And I think that's important to talk about because in this debate of whether you can wear your natural hair or not, we forget to talk about our personal feelings towards it, not how society perceives it, but how we ourselves feel about it and the confidence that we embody and have wearing our hairstyles the way we do, you know, and that could come from it not being accepted for the longest time to wear it, or just I don't feel comfortable in it. And either way, it's okay. You know, sometimes it feels great, sometimes it doesn't. And that's the whole beauty, reserving the right to chop and change as per what serves you at a given time. Body shape is the same. You know, when I was growing up, being skinny was a no-no. It was almost like you, and this is in Ghana, like your parents can't feed you, you come from a poor family. It was just something you didn't do. And now, growing up in the West, everybody wants to become skinny, including me, which is just an irony, right? And now even in Ghana, being skinny is the thing, and not even mention the health benefits or anything else, just the image of it based on the different locations. And then other issues we address in terms of mindset and identity, in terms of feminism. Now, I absolutely love the idea of feminism, which says men and women are equal, right? I think so, but I don't. I think equal opportunities for sure, right? Equal pay for the same work, yes, yes, yes. But I still want chivalry. I still want the doors open for me. I still want someone to carry my bags for me. And in a way, I really think that helps the dynamics. And I've gone from where I wouldn't allow a man to hold the door for me because I had this chip on my shoulder about I can do everything by myself, to go and actually I really want this because it helps my husband, for example, invest in the relationship, or I feel loved. That is a love language, for example. So it's something I don't want to lose. So it's again picking and choosing what works and what makes sense in society. I mean, I don't even want to go there with society and some of the crap that goes in there. Sometimes we support, I see that in interviews or in scandals, sometimes we support someone for the mere fact that they're a woman and they have a vagina, rather than the common sense that goes with it. You know, it's just, oh, we have to stand by the women. No, if I don't think she's done the right thing, then no, I don't stand by her. And I lead a club, and the Alpha Woman Club, and it's about personal and professional development. And sometimes people have said to me, well, why would you bring a male speaker in? It's a feminine club, and ideally we want to see more women role models. And it's true. Growing up, I wanted to see more celebrities or people to look up to that look like me. So I can understand that in that argument, that you want to see people that look like you and be inspired by them. But in the absence of that, you still want to get the value, and I don't care who it comes from. You know? And these are some of the conflicts that go on in your head. And that's okay to say that in these matters, I feel like this is the right thing to do. In those matters, I feel like this is the right thing to do. And it's all perfect. And they can live together like ebony and ivory in perfect harmony. Ebony and ivory. All right, let's not sing. Spirituality is the next topic that we talk about. And again, this opens up a whole can of worms of what is spirituality, and some of the journeys perhaps you've gone through as well in your own self-discovery. And I think career and business in itself is a spiritual experience too, because if you think that your work is part of your higher calling, what I call your cause in my book, in my How to Career book, so your why, if you will, then there's a different approach that you take to doing your job than if you think it's just a means to an end, and it's nothing more than that. So you can apply spirituality in your work as well. I think it's really important. Of course, I've believed a lot of things, going from growing up in a Christian upbringing. And I say Christian, we moved through different various of Christianity, right? We went from Jehovah's Witness to Presbyterian to Pentecostal to an interdenominational church, and then at a later stage, Roman Catholic, and then into baptism and, right? So Christianity in itself was broad for me. And that in itself is a mindfuck, right? Of all of these different types of Christians. And in this church, we believe this, and in this other church, we don't believe this, but we're all Christians. And then the history of Christianity, or the history of religions in general. You know, I talk about love and fear in the book. And the opposite of love, I feel, is fear, right? And some of these institutions, I feel, are fear-based institutions. An institution that forces you to go in a set way, gives you set instructions, and almost takes some freedom from you. And this could be religion, it could be marriage, it could be the government, whatever it is, but anything that encroaches on your freedom to choose, I feel, is a fear-based institution. And I include religion in that. I'm not against it. As you'll see, I've fought with different parts of it and arrived at a happy medium, even Buddhism and atheism at some point, which I'm happy with, which is a sort of Christian spirituality, Christian Buddhist spirituality that I now believe in, and it works for me for now. Right? But my God swears, as I say, with the Falmouth deity. Some of the stresses or the trauma, these events in your life that changes the direction of what you're thinking. So steady Christian until fuck, someone who calls himself a pastor or like a spiritual leader tries to rape me at a very young age. And you can imagine what that does to a child, right? It's, for me, it was not only the physical trauma of my body being invaded like that, but also the lack of trust in somebody you call uncle, somebody that you care about and look up to as a moral guide or compass. And for them to do that, and you think, is this all a lie? Like, was all of this made up? Like, what the fuck is going on here? And that for me shattered my faith. And for a while I thought, okay, I don't believe in anything anymore. It's all a lie. They lied to me. And I went completely the opposite to atheism, then discovered different religions, as I said, to what I believe in now. But I find parallels, by the way. Spirituality is a search for soul and through the soul for meaning and something you can make peace with, or inner knowing, looking to yourselves. Like I say, my God swears, my God talks the way I do. Sometimes he's like, fuck off, Linda, do this. Sometimes he doesn't. And I call it a he. I know other people that call it a she, whatever works. You know, sometimes it's an older person, sometimes it's a younger person. It works for me, right? But I can't help but liken some of the trends we see these days. What I know is that spirituality isn't new, right? We like to think it's new age thinking, but these things have been around ever since the human race has been around, right? I compare like all of these pilgrimages that spiritual people do, like for the Muslims to Mecca, for Christians to Bethlehem, Jerusalem, you know, all of the biblical places, to young people these days doing and digital nomads doing the tours around the world, you know, hit the usual spots, Bali, Goa, Latin America, in search of an experience to find themselves, India, going to ashrams, going to eco communities, yoga retreats, whatever it is. But in some way, we're all searching for soul and meaning and looking for a way of life that we can relate to. And I think spirituality is all of that. Also, there's psychedelics and other hallucinogenic drugs, like the party drugs that makes you high and takes you, so that you see other things like mushrooms, but also cacao leaves or ayahuasca ceremonies and consulting the shamans. And I feel like there's parallels between these, right? It's all the search of spirit and something that we can really relate to. So in the book, I express the journey I've been on with some of these, and of course, what I believe. Then we come to love, sex, and relationships, which is by far one of the scariest parts of this book for me, for a lot of reasons, because I feel like I have, to me, unconventional, but actually, because no one talks about this, you never know, right? This is what I mean by you and I are thinking it, but nobody's saying it. So I don't know. I, for one, I think love and sex are separate, two very separate things. You know, even when you're in a relationship, in a committed relationship, there is loving them, and then there's like making love to them. And why do we even call it making love? Is it that if you don't sleep with someone, then you can't be intimate with them, or you can't love them intimately? You know what I mean? Or relationships as well. I make a distinction between platonic relationships with our friends and family, but also romantic relationships. Because actually, one thing you can see this getting exciting. One thing that I find interesting, I've always said that I can get any guy I want. And that's not me being arrogant at all, but I feel like early on, I cracked the code of getting the hot guy. In my younger years, I was quite arrogant. I would only date people that were good looking. And if nobody wanted them, then I didn't want them, because I always wanted to aim high. I mean, that in itself has so many complexes that we can go into. But I feel like you can, if you treat romantic relationships, if we approach romantic relationships the way we approach friendships, some work out, some don't. And you don't have, I think why people struggle with dating is the whole, because you're so aware of the sexual attraction there, you see somebody that you're attracted to, and it sort of stops you in a track, because you're like, almost, you've got this desperate energy, you've got this nerves already. Whereas if it's somebody you don't fancy in that way, you're not attracted to, you can go and introduce yourself, see what happens, and you can be yourself. And by being yourself, you can show more of yourself. And then there's you put the other person at ease, and there's a possibility to see if it works or not, right? So that's my secret to approaching and talking to anyone that I was attracted to. And some, like, I mean, sex has been used for different reasons. You know, sometimes you use sex because you want to have fun. Sometimes you want to use it as a revenge, you know. and that sort of happened. I went out with someone as a revenge, which I don't, isn't my finest hour, but it happened. And then there's the question of monogamy in itself. Is it healthy? Again, I spoke about fear-based institutions, and I definitely think that monogamy is one of them. You know, we're so afraid of, I think, we're so afraid of them going to have somebody else and then picking somebody else of them, that we want to trap them in a sort of monogamous relationships just so we have some sort of control over them. And what would happen if we embrace polyamory? How would it work? I would love to see a society that does that, and if it descends into anarchy, or if actually it's healthier for people. And you know, and this whole idea that we need to belong to somebody, is it that we're afraid to be by ourselves? Then that again is another question that I would love some answers to, or even to explore deeper with myself and people, like-minded people, right? What's the point of marriage? Why trap someone in this institution? Is it not enough to commit until it makes sense to, and then go our separate ways amicably, right? And if you think about it, why really do we get married? I know for me, it was something I really struggled with, because I didn't believe in marriage. I didn't think I wanted to get married. But some of it was from my upbringing, because I have selective sound sensitivity syndrome, which means I can't share a table at meals with people, because I hate the sound of chewing. I hate repetitive, some repetitive noises, just some sounds really trigger me and makes me anxious, and not a very nice person to be around. And I remember my mum, and obviously not maliciously at all, but she used to say to me, you'll never find someone to marry you, or someone that will put up with your bullshit. You need to learn to live among people. So as a young person, I made that agreement with myself in my head, that I wasn't marriage material. Nobody's going to put up with me. Nobody's going to marry me. So I was like, it's not for me. I'm not going to do it. So I thought I would focus on career, and I'd be married to my career. So perhaps it's the basis for some of these beliefs. I don't know. But it's worth exploring, and I do a lot of that in the book. So yes, I don't tend to have answers to that. But if it works for you, why not? And I think that if you're happy and somebody's satisfying you, you definitely don't find the need to go elsewhere. But if you're lacking something, then why not look for it elsewhere? Why not outsource it? We outsource everything else in business. If we're not getting it from one person, we hire multiple people. And I think it could be the same if you're not getting it from your partner. And why should that be any different? But again, and I take issue with the word cheated on. You know, who are you cheating? If you're staying in something you're unhappy with, then you're cheating on yourself. And if you go and get it, then you're cheating on the other person. Why does it have to do with the other person? Is it exclusive that if you go with somebody, you don't like the other person? I'm not saying I do this all the time. I'm not saying that I'm advocating it. I'm just saying it doesn't fucking make sense to me. Right. And then I was discussing this again with someone in terms of why do males tend to be dominant in sex? And it just came out of my subconscious. I was like, biology's in favor of men. Because if you think about it, and I'm talking about heterosexual relationships here, the penis goes into the vagina, not the other way around. Like, yes, you might be able to sit on it and bounce on it, all of that stuff. But in the natural course of things, if we look at animals, they tend to be on top. So I can see why it's evolved, that they're dominant, the more dominant of the two when it comes to male and female sexual encounters. And then I introduce at this juncture relationships, frenemies, right? We talk about friends and we talk about enemies, and not all friends are friends, as you know, and you have to separate which ones are friends for the season. And when people go, you got to let them go. You know, sometimes we hold on to people in our lives that don't serve us. You know, just because we've been friends for a long time doesn't mean that it doesn't come to an end. It does. But also the idea of frenemies. And for me, this wasn't normal until I spoke to more people about it. And then I started to question again my mindset about frenemies. Because for me, I think if you can correctly identify somebody who is a friend, but doesn't necessarily wish you well because they're probably jealous of you. And jealousy, by the way, is a normal human emotion. It's what they do with that. You know, if they're really not cheering you on, they don't want you to succeed, they're a frenemy. It doesn't mean you should get rid of them straight away. I didn't. But maybe because I'm a chicken and I and I don't like confrontation, that could well be. And I'm open to that, exploring that about myself. But also I think, well, when somebody doesn't wish you well, it's motivation to succeed and prove them wrong. So I keep some frenemies, but I make the distinction. And if I want to achieve a goal that I've set for myself, whether it's career, business, I will go bet with them. And because they don't want me to succeed, one, I will make sure I do it. But it's painful if they win, because usually I would bet money with them. Can you keep me accountable so that if I don't make this video, for example, or if I don't show up on this webinar, then you get 50, 100 euros of my money. I don't want to give my frenemy my money, so you bet I'm going to show up. And sometimes, like, where people are motivated by pain or pleasure, and sometimes that just works, you know. So I don't think having frenemies is necessarily a bad thing. You just need to be able to correctly categorize people where they belong in your life at different stages, and they might change from time to time what their function in your life is. In any way, the idea of the MindFxcks books is that what you resist persists. And I think that we should be open to talking about some of these taboo subjects that keep us enslaved and trapped in our position, you know, in the way we operate. I really think that there's room to explore and really really question ourselves on these topics, right? And you're all right. Like, don't worry about what's wrong with you, what's right with you. Everyone has their own shit and narrative going on in their head, and there's no right or wrong. You are fine, Okay, stop idolizing people for what they show you, this front office that they show you, and you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. And be kind, of course, because we don't know what's going on with people. And perfect doesn't exist. And even if it does, it doesn't fucking matter. It really doesn't. And that really is the key message of this book, of an insight into Linda Pallien, the world-class coach, but also into the psychology that makes the personal professional lives, that all makes a complete human being, right? So lastly, I want you, if you take anything out of this book, relax, because you're not the only one that's fucked up, if you are fucked up at all. There's always people more fucked up than you. And I want you to embrace the fucked upness. I want you to embrace all of you, the slightly less fucked up genius and beautiful creation that you innately are. You don't even have to do anything to deserve that, because you are that person. You are. You simply are that person. So if you're interested in the book, I can't wait to share it with you. Please, please, please do visit lindapallien.com. Linda Pallien is spelled LINDAPALLIEN, lindapallien.com. And there's a button on the front page that says pre-order MindFxcks book. All you need to do is put your name and email address on there. And I will keep you updated when the book comes out, when copies are available for purchase, and also signed copies when I'm doing author signings on the book. So keep in touch. You can obviously find more about me at lindapallien.com. I'm on Facebook and Instagram as Linda Pallien, MyCheerLinda. You can find me that way. And if you've enjoyed the content of this video, then please do share with people that would be interested in the book, people that want to know more about this project or what I'm doing, about Alpha Woman and the women that I work with. Any feedback, I'm open to hearing about you and hearing from you and sharing more of what we've prepared. Thank you so much for joining me. And I'm looking forward to sharing the MindFxcks book with you. I'm looking forward for us to normalize and have conversations about some of these topics that we've been told are too sensitive. I'm looking for us to like expand and open our horizons and share unapologetically, without reservations, with each other, as sisters, as friends, as lovers, as whatever, you know, in this beautiful world that we coexist together, and growing in personally and professionally in every domain possible together. So thank you so much for being on this call. I truly appreciate you, and I cannot wait to go out in the world and release this book, share with others, and also just have more conversations about this and do more work on these subject areas. Thank you so much for being here. I've been Linda Pallien, and I've been talking about the outrageous MindFxcks book that is coming soon to a bookstore near you, coming soon to your mobile device, coming soon to a town near you, hopefully when we can travel again. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful, wonderful life. Bye for now.